Think that a lot of C-suite executives think that it's a lot more difficult than it actually is to be inclusive and to hire people with disabilities. Another misnomer is that it's actually expensive, and it's not. Most accommodations cost under $500. And I'd say the third thing is that they think they have to do it on their own. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of people out there that are actually can be supportive to new business leaders who are learning about inclusion and all these types of things, like Accessible Employers or the President's Group and many other disability service organizations. And the ones that actually benefit the most are the ones that actually implement programs directly into their organization. A technology company like SAP Canada has done really well with their Autism at Work program, and that's actually utilizing the strengths of the person with the disability as opposed to looking at it as a disadvantage. So there are opportunities there for some individuals, some employees that are in a company to actually bring to the table a unique perspective in a way that if they didn't have what some would describe as a disability to the table. There has to be an opportunity for the CEO to champion the idea. A lot of the times, CEOs and business leaders, they pass this information on to their HR team and they say, this is something very important for us to follow, make sure that we're doing this, but they don't actually get the buy-in themselves first. So setting the tone from the top down is something that I often talk about, and it has to be bought in from the CEO level. So having an accessibility professional or somebody coming in for disability awareness training and to be able to provide that training one-on-one to staff, whether that's in person or virtual, will not teach sympathy, but rather empathy and being able to understand the circumstances that somebody goes through. You're not going to be able to pinpoint all of the challenges that every type of disability or somebody with a disability will overcome or have to go through. But it actually levels the playing field and just having a general sense of this is what we need to do to get ourselves started and in the right place. And then the second thing I would say that's kind of related to this is making sure that your job descriptions are actually accessible to all candidates. Oftentimes, especially in tech, we think that we have all the bells and whistles, but then we forget that our application processes aren't actually accessible to things like screen readers. So you may have a really talented programmer or designer or artist of other sorts who has low vision or other aspects where they use assistive technology to help them to read out the text on, say, a document or even a job description. Well, it's simply by having that technology enabled so that you can actually open the door to more candidates, a wider variety of candidates. That's going to have more companies say, not say rather that we don't have people with disabilities applying, but rather we have a wide variety of people applying, and it's because we put these things in place. Having my disability my entire life, I think that especially when I was coming up in my career in the early 2000s, I think that disability and inclusion as a whole wasn't really something that was talked about. And I think that there's a lot of, as I said earlier, assumptions that are placed on people. And I think that rather than have a one-on-one conversation with me, there were times where there were team building events, say at like a soccer pitch, where everyone was playing a soccer match. And rather than kind of clear it with me because the conversation is awkward, they would just say, you know what, Marco, for this one, why don't you just sit out and, we'll make sure that you have other things that you can kind of keep yourself busy with. But that really made me feel excluded in some of these team building events where I wasn't really able to participate. Whereas if somebody were to check in with me, actually talk to me one-on-one and say things like, how can we best support you in this circumstance so that you feel like you're involved? It's not to placate me. It's not to make me feel special or different. I want to make sure that that's clear, but just to make sure that you're connecting with me as a human being before you're thinking about what it is that I do for your company or your organization as a whole and as an employee. To connect with me on more of a human level, I think is something that is translatable to anybody in any circumstance. And I think that a lot of those situations where I felt excluded could have been avoided.